Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Polity's podcast. I'm here with Alex Denley.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. And we are excited to announce that our AI issue of New Polity Magazine is out and available for pre-order right now. Where do people go?
newpolity.com/magazine.
What I love about this one is that it is a full response. Obviously, more could be said, but this collects some of the best minds thinking about AI right now, and it puts an end to the kind of wishy-washy position of the church that would frame Catholics, especially, as just watching the world and being alarmed at the various new devices and new techniques that it's developing. Instead, it's saying, no, the church has a tradition. The church can deal with this. The church is dealing with this. Here it is. Here's the magazine. Mm-hmm. You did a phenomenal job, Alex. You got a great paper in there, and you particularly bring up AI in relation to the social teaching of the church, and really provided a lot of insight to me on why it is that our current Pope, Leo, would have made, really, it was like on the first day of his papacy, would have made a connection between his papacy and then the moment occasioned by AI. And and one of the things that you draw out is his predecessor, Paul VI, basically saying the church is capable. The church has a social teaching, a social tradition that's capable of understanding and ultimately redeeming everything wrong with AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in preparation for writing the Catholic social teaching book, I actually read pretty much every encyclical.
Yeah, this is the one with Dr. Andrew Jones.
Yes, we're sending in the manuscript in March to Word on Fire Academic, and so to do my due diligence, I just read all of it, and there's actually a really deep critique of technocracy and technology generally in Catholic social teaching, and it begins really with Pope Paul VI. Mm-hmm. In his apostolic exhortation, Octogesima Adveniens. And I kind of see it in relation to Humane Vitae, and we've talked about this, where Humane Vitae with contraception is the church speaking on a particular technology. Mm-hmm. And his arguments he makes on contraception also have this critique of technology and control over the body.
Yeah, his big concern is that couples will give over their own mastery to technique, to technology, mm-hmm. Which is not what most people say when they are considering the church's teaching on contraception in particular. But it is there. It's a application of a broader critique of technocracy, of being governed by the machines you make rather than being the master of them.
And it was ahead of its time in that way if we think about in vitro fertilization later and other techniques controlling birth, not have abortion, all sorts of the development of the techniques. In Octogesima Adveniens, he actually expands that kind of very specific critique of contraception that has a technological critique there and expands it into a real full technological critique. And so at the beginning of this, from the tradition section, we have a selection from Octogesima Adveniens.
Yeah, if you're new to our magazine, we always try to have something from the church in its tradition, which is grounds what we're doing. Because sometimes, I don't know, I get very nervous. If I ever think an idea is new or that I've had an idea, I immediately feel vulnerable and exposed. But then you read it in the Catholic tradition, in a saint, in the popes, and you see that this is not, like there's no place for arrogance here. It is continuing a tradition that has gone before us. And certainly the critique of technology is gone before us. I mean,
yes, right.
I think sometimes we can forget as we look at our screens and are just amazed. A new technology is going to totally change the world. You imagine what people were thinking like after the world wars? I mean, like,
yeah,
we are blessed in some ways to have a very extremely virtual new industrial revolution going on, as opposed to something that's
at that scale and world transformative in that way. And something interesting that Paul VI asserts is that there's been a retreat of ideologies
Yeah.
So he says that, and this is 60s, 70s, that there's a retreat of political ideologies as actually being able to explain the social order. And what he says is that
so
retreat,
like communism, capitalism, liberalism, those sorts of...
They made more sense at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. They made more sense as a world theory that was being built, capitalism, in a very, like, you can think Leo the 13th, like capital and labor, and here's a solution from the communists. Here's the capitalists wanting to grow the economy in this way, and they're battling, and the church presenting a position. But Paul VI says that the ideologies are increasingly not describing the social order. Yeah. And in fact, people aren't using them as their main motivation.
Right.
And that he makes the claim that what we're sliding towards is universalized technocracy as the dominant mode of activity in the world.
Yeah.
And when I first read that in Octogesimo, I mean, that was shocking. That's the first time technocracy had been introduced into Catholic social teaching, used by the Pope. And I thought it was really ahead of its time. What he's arguing is that this technology promises all these powers over nature, over man, and those powers can be justified using political ideological terms.
Right.
But there's not really a guiding ideology to technology as such. It's just, it's powerful. It gets us more power. We're going to develop better weapons. We're going to develop better screens. We're going to develop better interfaces. And that can be shared in the midst of a bureaucratic socialist system. It can be shared by a technocratic capitalist system. Yeah. And in Paul VI time, that means the Soviets and the Americans, right? And they're both developing technologies, and the ideologies don't really have anything essential that makes them technocratic. They're both just technocratic. It's universalized technocracy.
It's such a relief to hear from a saint, because it's certainly my experience of the world on a very basic level. Like I know some Marxists, but they're not. They kind of have Marxism as a brand, and they don't have any. Like they're not going to do anything really. Like there's no revolution coming. It's all on the computer. And there's also this sense, if you think about our tech lords, our the folks that own most of the wealth currently, they are completely, you would almost think ideologically neutral. It's like before Trump's elected, they're all, they're woke. Everyone's concerned about woke capital, about these corporations that have DEI policies, and this is the bad thing because they're so ideological. And then Trump gets elected, and now they're all basically right-wing, conservative. They are on the side of capital. Forget the proletariat. Forget the identity politics. They're going hard for libertarian ideals. But it's a good way of looking at the truth of Paul VI's statement when your own elite are not actually governed by a reigning ideology, except for insofar as those ideologies work for a heightened technocracy. So now it's very convenient for the sake of growing the machines and the power over, or rather the corporations that are creating the new technologies that are essentially the form of our economy. It's useful for a little while when that's on the side of what they're calling social justice, and when it's not, and we need to get back to just making stuff for drones, and then you jump ship. So in a way, there's something romantic and even more human and humane about the wickedness of the ideologies, like in the sense that the liberals of yore believed in liberalism and wanted to produce, wanted to extract value out of subsistence, and the Soviets, the communists of old, believed in the revolution and wanted to enact it through, accelerating class warfare. But I think we're increasing at a state where the crisis is that we don't really believe in anything. I mean, what do we believe in? No,
and Silicon Valley is a good example of that, because there's a general libertarian feeling, at least that I've heard. And in their kind of angle, which is, what I really care about is developing cool technology that's going to, make a lot of money. And all of the state intervention, the state regulations, all that stuff, it doesn't matter if it comes from left or right. I don't want that, right? Now, because the tech has gotten so big that they are shaping the whole of the American society, they get regulated and attention from the regime, like deep attention from the regime. And so then you have to play nice with, like, if you're at the level of Meta and Google and the rest of them, you have to have the state on your side because you're too big at this point. Like you're a national thing, right? You're an international, global thing. So when it was Biden, of course, they're going along with that, the censorship, whatever. Trump, now they're full with Trump, and now it seems to right wing. But what is the same through it is that there's a favorable attitude from the regime towards the technocratic or towards tech development generally. Yes. And then that continues. And so as long as that continues, that's the essential thing. The ideological stuff can change, which is Paul VI was already seeing that.
Yeah. The parties will change, but the beautiful American countryside will increasingly be devoted to data centers.
Right. And and what's the proof of that? Well, it's powerful, right? So this is where Pope Francis in Laudato Si develops what Paul VI is doing on what he asserts on universalized technocracy, and he asserts that there's a technocratic paradigm. Yeah. And this paradigm is, so technocracy really describes the regime as such, so it's ruled by technology. It's the idea that technology is your highest good, and you are mechanized in your production of the technology. It's a description of society. The technocratic paradigm, Pope Francis says, is a way of viewing technology and of man and of society. It takes it epistemologically. And the technocratic paradigm has what he will call the ironclad logic of power with it, which is the technology is powerful, therefore it will make society good. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter what power is granted. Yeah. It's just that a power is granted means that we're progressing. Yeah. Society will get better.
Which is exactly how I hear so many people speaking of AI. In a way, it's a technology that's perfect for a liberal society because it ostensibly doesn't have particular ends. It's just raw power. It's like, what is it for? Well, it's for whatever you want it to be for. Right. When Sam Altman recently announced that he'll be getting into porn by having OpenAI and ChatGPT sext you. One of his defenses was just liberal neutrality. He was saying we have a rule, and the rule is that we treat adults like adults. Which whenever you have the same word in a sentence defending your actions, you should at least be alarmed that you're involved in something. You're involved in something where you're not really thinking.
Yeah, asserting a tautology is basically what are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do?
What are podcast is the podcast.
Yeah,
it's like
love is love.
What are you going to do about it? Right.
Yeah. So the assertion of power there, sort of like a baring of teeth, was an interesting one because it drew on our rote liberalism, right? It said, well, we're not asserting any particular worldview. We're just saying if you want the AI to sext you, it should do it. If you're a 13-year-old and you want the AI to be a friend that's friendly and using a lot of emojis, it should do it. We're not in charge. We don't assign ends. We're not after some kind of goal with all this stuff. We want power, and not in the sense of like power, mwahaha, rub fingertips together, but power in the sense of potentiality, capacity. We give you a capacity, you aim it towards particular ends. Mm-hmm. If your ends happen to be sexting, who are we to judge? If your ends happen to be the maintenance of an imaginary friend, who are we to judge? We just give you the power. And that's, of course, just as a technology, what liberalism is as an ideology. It's just that it becomes way, way more hidden. No one's actually asserting the claim that power is neutral, that there are no ends to the human person, that you select your own individual ends. None of that is being asserted because, like you say, it's a post-ideological world. Instead, you're just given the machine that is built on those principles. So you're given the formless machine, the kind of raw power of it. Now, of course, the lie and the thing that Francis points out many times is that it is a paradigm. It's not a neutral power that you can aim towards good or evil, but it's a particular paradigm, a particular way of engaging with reality that's already got a lot of priors to it. It's already formed in some way. And I think that's what I want to continuously remind people, that the tools we use form us even as we use them, and they are designed with ends in mind, and those ends are always particular.
As Pope Francis says, they form the framework of social life, right? So for when you're designing a technology, then there is always we could say a political question to it. What is the use of this thing for the common good? And there's not even that question being asked. If you're within the technocratic paradigm, the common good is a future problem. And this is something I called out with Sam Altman and his blog, The Gentle Singularity. The problem of the common good, the problem of the technology that you're developing and how it will impact society is a problem for future people to figure out, right? You introduce the technology, we battle, we figure it out, it displaces a lot of workers, like Sam Altman says, like there'll be hard things like whole classes of jobs going away, but then we're going to be making so much money, we'll figure it out, right? So this is an idea that you develop the technology first, and then whatever the consequences are, we'll figure it out. So it's act first, think later. And what you do thereby is you say, it doesn't matter the end for which I'm developing the technology. Society will figure out the end, but it will just throw it out there and at the same time accrue all the wealth and power that it gains by developing the thing. Right?
Yeah, and it's sad because I think there's like a Catholic reaction that mirrors that attitude, that imagines that the limit of Christian power in the world is to be a spectator and to watch, as it were, as machines are developed, as that paradigm becomes embodied in a particular tool, which then is universally marketed to the world. And then the Christian is limited to a second moment in which he reacts. So he says, okay, all right, you made this tool, I'm only going to use it for these good things. Oh, you made that tool. Wow, okay, we're not going to use it for this. We're going to make sure we use it for church. And oh, look, you took all of the beautiful countryside and you made these ugly data centers. Okay, well, we're going to react, you know what I mean? You're going to respond. And then, of course, the missing possibility is that the Christian should be the one taking power from the beginning, and that power should operate for the common good in the design phase of machines and not in the use of them afterwards, not simply in the use of them afterwards. Of course, like insofar as the world is, insofar as you really are a sort of passive recipient of very wealthy and powerful people who keep on producing machines, then of course you're going to have to deal with it and figure out what the best response is, how to engage it, how to not engage it. Obviously, that's the prudential question. But what the popes seem to be calling us to do is to question from the beginning what things we make. Should we make this thing? Should we do this? And I think that we don't have that. We don't believe in our own freedom in regards to our technological age. We really do. I mean, I certainly struggle. I shouldn't say we as if I'm not involved in this. Like, I certainly struggle in the idea of having a society where Christianity is actually operating as leaven enough to say, hey, let's not make that. It would be bad for us. Or let's not design that like that at all. Let's not even release that on the public. Let's make something good that serves the common good. And then subsequently, let's receive those machines as Christians. Like that kind of world is not easily conceived of.
Yes. And when Pope Francis also gave an address to the G7 political leaders specifically on AI, he came to give an address. This is 2020. I think it was was it last year? Maybe a year before that. But he talked about there that there's people have that reaction. The future seems bleak and everything's inevitable. And even what we're doing here, it's like I could see someone saying, well, cool, you made an AI magazine, but what's that going to change our future? Like, they're just going to keep developing this stuff.
Sure.
Like, yeah, we have no illusions that Silicon Valley and the state are going to change course on this.
Y'all could read it.
So it's not being naive. It's not saying, but it's identifying that you can end up confusing, and this is where technocracy becomes kind of ideological. You view man purely in terms of the development of machines. So as you develop new technologies in a technocracy, you end up reshaping your idea of who man is as that thing which produces his successor machine. Man had to do this type of work. He invented machine to replace himself doing that. Man had to think. Now we develop AI to replace that. Man had to do all these other things. We are the launch pad for the new technologies, and therefore we have no freedom in relation to them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, man is the creator of new technologies. That's what the perfection of the technocratic paradigm as an anthropology goes.
Yeah.
And what Pope Francis is saying is, no, it's a paradigm, and man isn't determined to just develop technologies that hurt him.
Yeah. Like instead,
or change society. You can not develop them or change the mode of the use of the technology and the design of it towards a real common good.
Right? Which means articulating it to begin with. I say this all the time in reference to our small town here, which is that the paradigm by which we work, because we're trying to revitalize, we're trying to fix buildings, we're trying to start businesses, we're trying to get into government, yada, yada. But the question is, well, what does good look like? What does success look like? And that's actually, I think, what the church can offer the world as far as a reminder. Is, hey, what does good look like? You got power, but what is the good that the power can achieve? Articulate that first. And what I try to do, just to guide myself a little, is to always make happiness like the goal. Like, is what I'm doing providing happiness for people? And of course, I don't mean that in a utilitarian sense where happiness is just defined as what people say, like pleasure, basically. I mean flourishing. I mean human flourishing. Does this help people to live happily together? Those goods that we know already, the goods of family, the goods of community, the goods of belonging to a place, the goods of security and peace. Does this attain those, or does it harm them? Once you have a different guide that isn't just power and we're going to make this because we can make this, then I think you're free, and you're actually able to step into the position of, I was going to say the politician. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean the one who has some charge over the polis, the building of the city, and you say, hey, let's not do this. That's not good for our people. Let's not do this. That's, you know how that works. That's not going to make us happy. We remember that stuff before with the screens. You don't want that with the kids. You got to, you start making these very common sense judgments, which every father of a family makes for his children, and yet the people who have fatherhood in the sense of great power in their hands imagine that they don't have that same responsibility. They say like, well, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but better give them all the power in the world. Yeah. Like, yeah, he seems to be 6 years old, but he needs power to make those decisions. Put him behind the wheel. Like, let's go. Right. I really liked Michael Boland's essay in this magazine, because it goes to war against this notion that this is all like some new thing that we have to deal with right now. So he brings up the fact that the conceptualization of the world as simply a machine, of man as simply a kind of compilation of parts, which of course lends itself to this idea that our purpose here on earth is just to produce the thing that replaces us. Yeah. This has got a kind of Genesis account in the story that Boland tells of Descartes. So I didn't know this. It's very exciting to me. that there is a apocryphal story that René Descartes, of course, the kind of founder of in some ways, obviously he's receiving it from others, but a founder of a modern metaphysics, in which I'm giving away too much. You can't do the spoilers. The point is that René Descartes apparently had an automaton daughter. That at some point he lost his daughter. I think she was 5 years old. He was very grieved, as you might understand. And he built a robot that could imitate human motion, even human speech. And the story goes that, and it's quite contemporary to his time. This isn't like something people started talking about hundreds of years later. The story goes that he was on a ship crossing the Holland Sea, off to be a tutor to some queen or other. And the ship captain heard him speaking in his cabin, but he knew that René was alone. And so he investigates at some point, opens up a box, and he sees the automaton, and he just says, "That's a demon," and he throws it over the side of the ship. And then René, subsequently undergoes a grief and dies about a year later. Okay, so what was funny about the essay? Well, one of the things I loved about the essay is Boland brings up a monk, actually, who was a big defender of Descartes, defending Descartes, saying, no, he didn't have an automaton daughter. That's slander. He just had an automaton, and he made it in order to show that animal bodies are nothing but machines. They receive their motion from the outside, right? They don't have self-motion, which was, of course, the Aristotelian idea of a universe of things that have form and that move of themselves. This idea is what goes to the wayside of modernity, and instead Descartes tries to imagine a world in which we really are all machines. And he gives a place for man being special by saying, well, man has these innate ideas and man's different, but the argument that Boland makes is that that doesn't really carry the weight it needs to. Like, you can't just redefine metaphysics, say that everything is in fact just machines and billiard balls bouncing, and then make a little special place for man in the cosmos, and he's just totally different than everything else. It becomes fideistic. But I think it's really important to our moment right now, because it's not an old lie. It's not an old, it's not a new lie. It's a assertion of a identity between what we can achieve with machines and who man is. The silliness of what do they call it? Artificial general intelligence has been with us for a while, because if the world really is just a lot of moving parts, and the moving parts happen to be organized or to appear organized in such a way as to produce something we call intelligence, well, why can't we just organize other parts and in doing so get an intelligence out of it? And how do we know? Because it can achieve the same sorts of things an intelligence does. Once you've denied a really profound view of the world as created, as there being concrete things that are wholes, that are creatures, then why not just arrange the parts in this way and get the same thing? I know we all kind of feel in an AI world that people are playing God. We're literally have people going about trying to make an intelligence, which, Frankenstein would be another story about that, right? But I think sometimes we forget that it's because there's a deeper anthropology or a deeper metaphysical assertion that makes that kind of desire possible. If God is just seen as a sort of extrinsic master of a universe that's ultimately a machine, then we just make machines within this larger machine universe, and that's it. And I think that's the like the metaphysical presumptions of the people who right now produce the machines and are driving forward our technological development.
And and a big contribution, that essay, in showing the mechanistic philosophy has actually been around for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
Like we're reaching breakthroughs, perhaps, and all the AI companies are explicitly saying, and this gets into the AI bubble thing, but they want to get AGI first. But AGI has been, in maybe not in those terms, but an intelligence that isn't as intelligent as us, but a machine. That goes all the way back, to the automaton daughter of Descartes, which is very interesting. AI, has been around. The pursuit of AI has been around for a very long time. Now, with regards to the AI bubble, which I think is very interesting, because I've heard often, we're in the midst of a bubble. I've been observing as well, like the people are talking about the financial stuff, where there's a kind of round tripping of money, where OpenAI says, we're investing $100 billion in NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA says, that's awesome, we're investing $100 billion in Microsoft. And then Microsoft says, that's awesome, we're investing $100 billion in OpenAI. And so you just round trip the money all around, which is a big bubble, right? So no money is actually being transferred, but you've made a lot of revenue. So there's a lot of potential like fraud stuff going on. But the reason all these tech companies are investing in each other is because they all want to be the one who acquires the perfect AI model. The point where they can say, this is artificial general intelligence. It can do everything a human intelligence can do. And then once you develop that particular model, you train it with all the data centers, you can then take it and then apply it to profitable ventures. So you can take the model and then integrate it into healthcare. You can take the model, integrate it into finance, integrate it into, they already have coding. Coding's the one that's, been the most profitable, especially like Anthropic and such, Claude Code. But it feels as though there's a huge bubble going on right now, and that it's going to burst, and then isn't AI just going to go away, right? Well, as Boland's pointing out, no, we're like, these people are still going to have the goal of a general intelligence. But even if the bubble burst, and this is where the article from Mâinile Strigoilor comes in, also in this issue. It's a great issue. You should pre-order it now. But he takes on the idea of the AI bubble and just reasserts that, there are financial bubbles a lot of times. But what happens is it's a transfer of ownership of the underlying technology. So certain people are invested in AI way over what it should be valued. Bubble burst, they get out of AI, and then the ownership of the underlying technology transfers to whoever scoops it up. That's how bubbles work. So to think that, well, AI is just, it's all hype, it's not going to deliver. It's like, it might burst. There might be less money in it for a while, but then the ownership of the underlying technology is just going to transfer, and we'll keep having it, right?
How is that affected though by the government investment in it? It seems like similar to housing, similar to banks. We don't actually have we don't actually have like just a free market that's just trying to make a profitable product, but maybe it won't actually. Certainly it won't make a profitable product on net. Like the amount of loss, the amount of AI companies that have made no money far outweighs the ones that have. But it seems like the federal government in our country anyways stepped up and basically said, we're going to bankroll this. We're going to subsidize it. We're going to put it in schools. We're going to give grants to people who want to research it and to develop it further. So is it a bubble, or is it like AI has got a sugar daddy that's going to keep it around?
Once the state's invested and there's a defense purpose, particularly, autonomous weapons, it's like it'll be around. A portion of the defense budget will always, from here on, just be on AI development. They already do contracts to Palantir, developing autonomous weapons, being ahead, because this is where AI 2027, the website that talks about a really like doomer destruction future with AI. It's just on AI2027.com. But they play out a scenario of an arms race between the United States and China, where both are trying to develop the super AI intelligence as quick as possible. And part of that is already here, right? That once the state views AI as a national security need, then the money will be around for it, right? Like there's not like, oh, will it be profitable in the market? Like the state doesn't have to think in those terms when you take tax dollars, right? And you're already super inflationary as an economy. So America, and with the Trump administration, it seems as though AI is getting enormous state-backed investment. So whatever the financial market does with the tech companies, whether their valuations are insane like they are now, or whether it collapses a little bit, like you said, the state's already bought in, so it's going to be around. Right?
Yeah, and
that's the backstop for all of the tech development.
Well, and this is part of what makes me sad, is that the amount of uglification of the American countryside that's going to go on to build the data centers that fuel a demand for AI that our federal government is saying must remain. Like we have to. What was the phrase that you quoted from the
AI, America's AI action plan?
Yeah, you said it was like try first attitude, or They said that there's been a bottleneck in adoption. So this is the Trump administration released a document called America's AI Action Plan. Yeah.
It's a policy recommendation document. It doesn't have like actual policy, level, but it's recommending to the federal government, how do we approach AI? And one thing they said is that there's been a bottleneck in adopting AI technology into healthcare and other fields. And what the federal government should encourage is a try-first culture with AI. And I point out that, okay, you just gave me the example of healthcare. Like, we should have a try-first culture of healthcare, But, and I think it's representative of a technocratic paradigm. But the try-first culture regarding the new technology. Yeah. Because, look, we're going to invest in it. So for the economy to integrate it and therefore make it profitable, AI, we need you to try it. Like the federal government needs you to start using AI in your company.
Yeah.
And make it profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's I guess what I was saying is that there's a certain level of commitment of America's existing infrastructure and its natural resources and its commonwealth to data centers and AI generally, that commits one irrevocably. It's like, look, you can't just make Wisconsin a data center, so like riddled with data centers, using the rivers to cool them, and then say, oh yeah, but it was just a bubble, and we're gonna we're gonna back off that. Yeah. And it's like, no, the commitment is massive. And there is such a thing as a commitment that you renege on and you overbuild, and then you sell out, and then you, like, we live in the Rust Belt here. We know what that's like. It's decay. I mean, this is what blight looks like. Blight and the sadness of a broken attempt at wealth and civilization. What it looks like is overinvestment, and then absenteeism. It looks like decaying buildings. It looks like very large projects that were pinned on hopes that ultimately,
didn't pan out.
Pan out. It's the use of a lot of money rather than taking a small step towards a good that you perceive. Like, hey, let's build a little more in here, or we all know we want this good. Why don't we work hard to get it? Instead of that, it says, all right, let's posit a future in which you're happy. Long time away, but it's going to be there. And then let's devote everything to it.
Yeah.
And then with all that motion that produces, we have something we call an economy. Because look, we're building stuff again. America's back. We've got electricians running 1 billion miles of lines for these data centers and all, But if it is a bubble, I fear the blight that follows. Like, I don't think anyone in the first industrial revolution, and which for America obviously came late, but looked at all the things we were building, all the mills we were putting together, and said, give it 70 years and this will all be a decaying wasteland that we call affectionately Mordor or something. No. This is it. This is the future. The future's here. We're all going to be rich. We're all going to be happy.
Right.
Of course, that is not the experience of the Rust Belt. And
I think that's kind of the downside of like AI 2027, which got very popular. The website that's forecasting they say we forecast a rapid and bleak, not rapid and bleak future, but a rapid new industrial revolution with AI, right? And they talk about how by 2030 we're going to have 50 million superhuman AGIs working at some insane speeds and all this stuff. It's very much like a future model that has no hiccups, and we just keep developing it and it just explodes the world or whatever. But it's very unlikely and very improbable that's going to happen. But what that leads people to believe then is, AI is a nothing burger. Like, it's not going to do anything. Like, it's a bubble. It's all hype. And what we're ignoring is, look at these data centers that have been built. Look at the energy demands that we already don't have our energy and infrastructure built out for just America. Now we're adding AI energy demands to it. Let's look at how the state is now investing in it, and what if it becomes a national security priority, similar to how nuclear weapons were a national security priority in the Cold War.
Yeah.
What happens if our resources if the military budget expands to Cold War levels because we're racing against China in AI-developed weapons and surveillance and cyber attacks and security, whatever. Let's talk about tech companies saying we're just going to pursue AGI and we're not going to turn it profitable until we reach that point. All of these things are real current problems, and whatever the model you propose, the data centers aren't just going to be vacant at some point, like in the immediate future. They're going to be used for something. A bubble might burst, but with the state backing it and the market convinced that it can bring an industrial revolution, money will still be there to make it happen, right? Like, there's not a future-looking model where like we give it all up. We're too bought in. I guess the point.
No, and it's tough because at least historically, then war becomes starts to be necessary to economies that are invested at that scale, where you need something that can destroy, something to spend a lot. That justifies essentially an amount of power that you have. This is a typical problem of armies generally. It's hard to devote a lot of people to having massive capacity to kill, but then have peace. It's like, actually, that capacity itself is is an orientation towards the world. Like, being a nation that puts tons of money into being able to develop these sorts of weapons tends us to use those weapons. Like, that's no joke. But it is it's a little depressing. Is this just a depressing magazine? Will you just get depressed?
No, I hope not. I think there's definitely a hopeful element there, and so there is the kind of like social broad scale critiques there, but I think there's also more individual critiques in the magazine. And
I really liked Crawford, Matthew Crawford's piece. He's just he's reflecting on a guy who's considering using the chat GPT to write his toast to his daughter at his daughter's wedding. And at the last moment, I won't give it away, but I think there's there's something very humorous about the whole situation that we're in, that I think you have to take a couple steps back from it all to see the humor. I mean, like, for me, one of the silly things, there's several silly things about it all, but one of them is that whenever something becomes devoted to lust or to pornography, it's usually the sign of some slight panic in terms of achieving a market for it, right? Because it's like you can have a product that everyone wants and that fulfills a need, and that will sell it because they're using it to fulfill the need. But what if you have a product where you've asserted that it will make new needs in the future and fulfill them? Then it's a little tough because you have to introduce into people's life something that that they didn't need. You say, hey guys, you're all happy here? Try doing this instead. And people largely are like, I don't, why?
Yeah.
So there's a few things you can do. In earlier forms of capitalism, one of the things to do was to take people's source of their peace, their land especially, away from them. And then they had to utilize the machines in order to make money, in order to buy food, right? So hunger, it's harder now. That sort of thing's already happened. But lust is always available, right? So you can always create the conditions of scarcity in someone if you can utilize sexual arousal against them, because, Aquinas says that I think it's stupidity, maybe ignorance, is a daughter of lust. So like the willingness to do things that work against you and your own good is pretty much associated with lust as a motivating force. And it's something you can assume of everyone. So like if you're saying like, how do I reach everybody when they don't have a need for this? It's like, well, why don't you make the thing pornographic? Because then it has a relation to everybody by drawing on what you can assume is lowest in everyone.
Yep.
Drawing on a sexual drive. So I don't think it's it's sad, but it's not a sign of great power that recently the AI chatbots have turned to sexual arousal as a means of marketing themselves. I think it's actually a sign related to the fear of a financial bubble, that it's proof to investors, don't worry, this commodity will be desired by everyone. It can,
in perpetuity.
And it can bear its universal scope. Because usually, especially with particular inventions like this, they're most effective within a limited sphere. Like humanity obviously did not need everything we make. But if you can make a device, it's very capital intensive, but relates to people through lust, through something that you can always tempt them with, then it can have that sense of like something everyone needs. And so it can have an indefinite life. Yeah. So investing in it makes sense. This is largely already true of the internet, period, but I think it's being repeated again for AI. But
especially if a goal is the cutting back of the labor force, and you're saying, okay, well, it will increase productivity, but therefore there's a reduction of the use by people and companies of it in a certain sense. Like you don't over time. But if you have erotica and porn stuff being developed by AI, it will always have a large market.
AI took your job, you're getting a universal basic income.
AI girlfriend.
Then you get the AI girlfriend, so you're still consuming, right? Because the difficulty, sometimes Altman and other people will say, well, once AI is taking care of all of our work, then what we'll do is we'll become artists and such. But that's a odd idea, because it presumes then the result of AI is you get a bunch of people who don't need it and don't use it, which of course is destructive of the technology if no one uses it anymore. So this gives a route to universal use. So I think it is a sign of fear and desperation, and I think a place for great Christian hope to say, like, look, if they're gonna sort of sell this thing by linking it to the crotch of America, like, we don't really need to be that frightened. We can say no, thank you, and do something else. I think that's true. It's also the case that it's just so lame. I mean, not in its particular applications. I think there's really awesome things that it can do, just dealing, like LLM technology, dealing with large sets of data. But as a sort of universal companion, as a universal chatbot, sexbot, that kind of major way in which it's being offered to us, it's like giving up actually on everything that makes technology cool. I mean, how do I put it? What's so fun about sci-fi movies, about imagining new inventions, is that they allow you to do things in the world, and they change the world and make it interesting. And what we increasingly do is just create virtual versions of a changed world and then have people look at their screen more. So I was just thinking about Star Wars. I mean, one of the things that makes Star Wars sweet is that you got C-3PO like booping around and R2-D2, and that's like the artificial intelligences that were made, and they are contributions to the built world, and they look like it. And everyone loved it. Everyone loves Star Wars. I mean, that was fun to watch, and you totally thought that would be sweet if I had C-3PO.
Well, and like when the first episode, they were trying to buy C-3PO, and he's like, "Can you read the codes from this this planter thing?" Because there was a particular use for their the intelligence. Like, I need him to read these Boshi codes.
Yes,
or whatever.
And of course it's sci-fi, so there's a silliness where obviously C-3PO really is a person. Like he's not.
No, he's not actually.
We're extrinsically saying, he's a droid, but like the things he does.
The way he was written
was
really as a person. Yeah.
But in any case, like the idea of having fun robots is gone, because instead what we have is the ability to look at a screen and then have a simulation of a fun robot that speaks to us. It's similar with just virtual reality generally as a goal. It's like no one even thinks that we're ever going to fly with jetpacks. Like no one even tries to do all the cool things we thought we were going to do. Instead, you just provide a version of it that simulates it on a screen. Even the like desire for just like maximized pleasure and power, even the kind of darker side of our technological longings are met by the same simulated formulation. It's like, oh, you thought we could amass power and wealth through the use of machines so that we could be, like we could have, how do I put it, multiple wives or something like that. It's like, well, no, you just get another screen with pornography. So the idea of replacing the hope in the future with a simulated version of a technological future, I think is what feels so lame about it. And Andrew Jones in his essay, which really forms the sort of, it's the center of the magazine. He tackles this problem in a essay entitled "The Future." No, it was called "The Technocratic and the Humane." But he in that essay talks about an axiom he has, which is the future is always worse than you think. And it's a really important essay because it gives structure, I think, to all of the debates concerning AI. It takes like 100 miles back and it just looks at it and it says, are we building a world that is good, or are we building a world that is lame? Are we building a world in which people are happy, or a world in which they're increasingly sad and scared? And then he defines these in terms of, are we building a humane world that is a human world, or a technocratic world? And he goes from there. But I think it's clear that I think it's clear that we don't actually want the world that we nevertheless feel constrained to build. And I think that is the ironclad logic of the technocratic paradigm. It's like, that the world is not the kind of world in which people are happy. You've known it for a long time. And yet you feel, because of you feel constrained to build that world. And then just hope that people do something better with it than you can really imagine doing yourself. And that's a slavish and sad form of existence.
Exactly. And I think in our art and our movies and novels and such, with the sci-fi thing, there's a continual theme of loneliness. So there's often a protagonist who's in the midst of a technologically super advanced world, but feels alien and lonely within it, and feels distant from everyone else around them, even though all the technology around them may be extremely cool and awesome. And they're kind of like the sole hero in the midst of a world that's been built that isn't oriented towards any type of human flourishing. It's so advanced, but it doesn't. And the technocratic world that he's talking about is one of great power, but low flourishing and low happiness. I mean, just like alienation and isolation, because because it is the seeding. It is a world perfect for machines, but not a world perfect for man. Right?
Yeah. I got a lot of that from your brother's essay.
On Lee Sedol.
Lee Sedol was a mighty man is the title of the essay, and it describes the creation of a machine to beat human players at the game Go. But I think more importantly, it describes this odd emotional reality. So the machine wins against this brilliant Go player, Lee Sedol. And there's this odd fact that everyone wants the person to win, right? Like there's this difficulty when we imagine ourselves as being for the sake of producing a machine that surpasses us. The actual being surpassed, obviously just in terms of this game, is one in which we long, even as we're doing it, even as we're making these machines, even as we're putting the human against the machine and having them battle it out to see who's better, we want to win. I mean, we want humanity to triumph. Mm-hmm. So it's this very disordered, like, you think about St. Paul's, I do the evil I would not.
Yeah.
And I see that again and again with technology, where it's like, what do we want? Like flourishing human beings. What did we make? Something to prove that we're beatable and can be replaced.
And this was, it was AlphaGo,
yes,
developed by, I think, DeepMind, who eventually merged into Google AI and Gemini. Their team developed, the Go was thought to be a game that was you couldn't program a machine to win at Go because of the level of complexity and the permutations and all this stuff. Very complex game. Old Chinese, very, very ancient Chinese game. And the greatest player in the world, Lee Sedol, does a 5-game match against AlphaGo. And there's a very, very popular documentary on it. And he loses the first 3 games. And it was a shock to everyone around the world, especially for China, and because Go is such an ancient game. And on the 4th game, he ends up winning against AlphaGo, and it was really phenomenal. One thing he described is that he felt as though it was a very lonely battle because there's not another person across from him that he can think, what is this guy thinking? What is the move he's thinking here? Mm-hmm. And there were certain moves AlphaGo made where he said, no, there's a deep creativity here going on with AlphaGo, and I don't know what it is. Like, I can't gauge it. And in that exact feeling of everyone around having 2 emotions, that one of like awe in the face of the AlphaGo machine mm-hmm. beating the greatest player, and also a desire to like see Lee Sedol win, mm-hmm. at least, we're in that. Yeah, I think it's very telling for the time we're in with AI. Like, why are we developing a machine to be smarter than us?
Mm-hmm. And it's this weird, but it's a weird shell game at the same time, because we develop machines smarter than us by virtue of making smart, intelligent, reducible to winning at a game of a certain level of probability. I mean, mm-hmm. what I love about human beings is that we like to act like machines for fun. That's what games are, right? And then, so of course, we are also the ones capable of producing machines to play those games. But then it's like we lose the plot and just say, and now we've invented something that is intelligence because it can beat intelligent people at chess or at Go or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, that's not the case. It's humanity versus humanity. This is what I liked about what your brother brought out, was that it is a human person against a group of human people who have designed this particular machine,
right?
And but it's hard for us, I think, not to it's, well, I should put it this way. It's just easy for us to forget that intelligence is actually not most revealed in man's ability to play games, in quantitative reasoning, in probabilistic predictions of outcomes and things like that. It really is man's original being in the world, his knowledge of creatures, of things, of the essences of things, of being a participant in the mystery of God's creation. I mean, that's what it means to be intelligent. And so when you have that, when you believe that to be the case about the human person, any kind of claim of functional equivalence to the intelligence is just a priori silly. Mm-hmm. It's like, but the intelligence isn't just something functional. Therefore, a functionally equivalent intelligence is not an intelligence. It's just, anyways. I mean, that also is a really good line of thought to pursue with D.C. Schindler in his article, which I think if I had to pick a favorite, I would say it was David's article for this magazine, where he talks about the infinite difference between intelligence and non-intelligence, which is rooted in some ways in the infinite difference between life and non-life. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really crucial as a bulwark against the kind of idea that some amount of imitation could somehow eventually produce like an actual intelligence or something equivalently. You can just call it an intelligence. So in that way, I think this magazine will be really helpful to people just in terms of rooting themselves and not being afraid of not taking AI for more than it is. You know, mm-hmm. It's not an intelligence. It's not another person. It's not a god.
Yeah, let's demystify it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a deep like religiosity, and there's some politics points out as well with technocracy, because in the worship of power, in the technocratic paradigm as well, there is like the powers above you. You know, when we talk about the modern narrative of secularization or this demystifying of nature and all this stuff, once you start producing technologies that you don't know how they work, right? Like they function, they're powerful, but you don't know why, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're kind of in the face of a god, right? Mm-hmm. Like a pagan god who just produces power and affects power in the world. Mm-hmm. You don't know why. You're, and that explains a fearfulness. That's part of the awe in relation to technologies that seem above us. Mm-hmm. And so you get a return of a kind of fearful pagan religiosity in technocratic societies.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Christ came to change fundamentally, or to save us from, when he tells his disciples that I don't call you slaves, like I who am Lord do not call you slaves, I call you friends, because slaves do not know what the master is doing. So he roots the experience of being a slave with the experience of having a master, but you do not participate in his act because you do not know him, right? It's ignorance as to the powers above you. I think that's totally right. And the whole Christian revolution has been to destroy the gods by virtue of saying, no, the power above you is for you. The power above you is inviting you in. The power above you wants to save you and bring you into literally participation, with God. Whereas in a technocratic order, you have the power above you wants to trick you, and never invite you into
right.
into itself. And I think with AI, we've just achieved something where everyone, and I think this is a good in an odd way, where everyone feels themselves to be on the other side. Like, what I mean is with most technologies, right, you have a distinction that we refer to with interface, where you have a group of people who know how the machine works, they built the machine, they understand it, and then the machine interfaces with people who control it in a user-friendly manner or just receive goods from it. Mm-hmm. And then you could describe a history of modernity as a sort of shrinking of the number of people who are behind the machines and a growing of the number of people who simply use them, consume them, and otherwise don't understand them, right? And if you were going to be theologically sort of poetic, I suppose you would say what's growing is the number of people who don't know what the master is doing. But with AI, there's a real total, because it is a sort of black box in its operations, because the amount of data that it is patterning and generating patterns from is too big for us to really know what's going on in its operations. Then everyone is sort of on the at some level, everyone is on the interface side. Everyone is in this position of, I don't know what the master's doing, like how to get that result, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be a source of solidarity, and not just a source of tyranny and oppression, is to say, hey, we are releasing onto the world a thing that operates in a way that we don't have mastery over. So we are all affected by this. Like, you don't get to be the winner, as it were.
And that even the AI developers don't know how it all works. Ronald Klingler in the last article actually talks about the risks of developing an AI that even the developers don't know how it really operates. Yeah. Like, it's kind of spooky to them as well. They release these safety reports. OpenAI does, other AI companies, but even in their safety reports, they're like, we don't know why it did this wild thing. Mm-hmm. We tried to fix it. We figured out something. Mm-hmm. But you can just imagine those things happening when it's socially adopted at scale. Sure. And just totally unprepared for it. And you can see, even in relation to the AI developers, that's the reason why I think it tends a little religious for them as well, because we don't know why this works so well, but it's working really well. Yeah. Like, I'm kind of scared that I don't have the reins on this.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think one of the hopes I have for this magazine is that it begins to be a source of reflection for people on how to live differently, to maintain mastery in a world that really a world in which it's likely that it will become more and more possible to live without ownership, to live without mastery, to live without the control of the tools that we operate. And I think that's something that just New Polity generally wants to do, whether it comes to money or to politics or technology, is to give you the resources to think about, how do I control, how do I master, how do I subdue and have dominion over the particular field that's given to me, whether in my work, my family, my place. Because once you can establish that, once you can answer that question and do it confidently, then you're going to be able, I think, to determine limits to these sorts of technologies. You're not going to you won't just be awash in whatever the world throws at you, right? You'll be able to make choices. You'll be able to prohibit creatively. You'll be able to use where you understand that use to be right, and that's necessary. It's necessary if we're not going to be slaves to our own tools, but are in fact going to be masters in the world like God created us to be. So I hope that this will serve.
Oh, yeah. And I'm just excited to get it out there to hopefully start shifting the discussion and assert, like Paul VI does, that even though moving towards universalized technocracy also opens up a space for the transcendence of Christianity, like the reassertion again of the end of the human person in God, his creation in God, his God-given intelligence, that the technology is meant to serve the common good and not our common good serves machines. All of these times are really important for us as Christians to assert a Christian approach to technology. And it's becoming more and more just an alternative between siding with universalized technocracy and just giving up and the transcendence of Christianity. So we want to get this magazine in as many hands as possible. If you've subscribed to the magazine, thank you for subscribing. If you did so before the October 15th deadline, you're going to get it in your mailbox. If you didn't subscribe, you can pre-order it. Also, if you have a podcast or a show and you want to invite either of us on, we'd love to send you a review copy of the magazine as well. You can email us at cs@newpolity.com. We're really hoping to get this to as many people as we can and start to shift the discussion.
That's righty. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, and happy reading. Goodbye.